In this video, I'm going to explore how we get out of the freeze response when someone is being aggressive. So someone in my Facebook group asked this question: how can I learn to stand up for myself when feeling under attack from someone? I currently freeze and go mute. I know what I could say. For example, I'm not going to continue this conversation whilst you're speaking to me like that, or something similar. But in the moment, I just clam up. So firstly, if that's your experience as well, sorry to hear that. You deserve to be treated with respect. Consider that other people's dysfunctional behaviour is a function of their wounds. So in this video, I'll briefly explore what the freeze response is, why we freeze, making sense of the freeze response, and I'll share 4 practical strategies to help you show up as the brilliant, awesome person you are. So the freeze response is a natural physiological reaction to feeling threatened. It's a common experience and often involuntary. It's the body's way of protecting itself. So why do we freeze? Our nervous system responds to perceived and real threats with fight, flight or freeze. Past experiences, both big T and small t trauma, can make the freeze response more likely. The body can default to freeze if standing up for yourself historically felt unsafe. So let's unpack the freeze response. So many of us learn to disconnect from our emotions as a coping mechanism. Many of us learned at a young age that it wasn't safe to express emotions. So learning to identify feelings, acknowledge feelings, feel feelings, process feelings and act appropriately on our feelings is a skill that many of us need to develop, especially when we're in a stressful situation. Some people naturally are good at doing that because they're very connected to their body and emotions. So neuroplasticity can influence the likelihood that we go into the freeze response. Neuroplasticity means that our brains are constantly adapting and forming pathways based on our experiences. Over time, if the body repeatedly encounters stress or confrontation and responds with the freeze response, this response can become conditioned. So it becomes almost automatic, a learned reaction. The good news is, just as this response was learned, it can be unlearned and reconditioned through new practices and responses. So freezing can happen when there's a backlog of unprocessed emotions, making it hard to respond in the moment. So it's like your emotional pot is full, okay? So in order to express emotions, we need to feel safe to do so. So if it feels risky, if there's a fear of rejection or conflict, then some people might avoid expressing emotions. They might worry about other people's opinions, and that fear of judgment may tip them into people-pleasing tendencies that prevent them from speaking up. So as I consider that some people are really comfortable connecting to their body, their emotions, and expressing their emotions. They don't worry about what other people think. And we've got to learn to do that, to worry less about what others think, because actually your feelings are valid. So I want to share 4 practical tips for working through the freeze response in these kind of situations. Strategy 1 is a preemptive strategy. It is to set your standards. Decide how you want to be treated. So for example, at one point I was hesitant to start posting videos on YouTube because I was a bit fearful that I would be attacked. But at a certain point I decided that if people interact with me on social media, I expect courtesy. And if someone isn't being courteous, then I'll challenge them on that. If they're not going to respond in a courteous manner, I'll just block them. Okay? I expect people to behave like adults. Now, whilst we understand that these freeze responses are kind of automatic, we want to ingrain beliefs, values that can help us respond differently to those kinds of situations. So remember the words of Eleanor Roosevelt. She said a lot of very wise things. She said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So I'd ask you to consider, if someone is interacting with you in an aggressive way and you freeze, is there some way in which you're perceiving yourself to be lesser than them, or them and their opinions more important than yours? That is not true. You are equal to everybody. So I invite you to start embracing that notion, okay? Eleanor Roosevelt also said, do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticised anyway. You'll be damned if you do and damned if you don't. So you might as well do. She didn't say that last bit. Second strategy, practice simple grounding techniques. You can practice these in that moment where you're in the freeze response, like deep breathing, wiggling your toes, giving yourself space to check in with your body, okay? Pressing your feet firmly on the ground. This can help bring us back into the present, gently moving our body, okay? So strategy 3 is building that emotional connection and expression in a gradual, safe way. I did share in video 1 of the mini course Exploring Recovery, practicing checking in with your body and emotions, because this can help build that connection between the brain and body. I will link the video below this one. Practice journaling feelings. Journaling is a really good way of helping you get in touch with your feelings. Practice role play scenarios with trusted friends. Okay, so for example, you could get your friend to be the person who was behaving in that aggressive way. You could get them to speak in a silly voice, all right, and practice saying whatever it is you would like to say to them. I'd rather not discuss this right now, or what this person said. I'm not going to continue this conversation whilst you're speaking to me like that. Another thing you can do is, if you haven't got someone to practice with, just replay the situation, but again, imagining them speaking in a silly voice. The other thing you can do is put an age on their behaviour. So how old is their behaviour when they're behaving like that? Are they behaving like a toddler? Are they behaving like a stroppy teenager? See them at that age. Imagine them dressed as let's say I decide someone is behaving like a stroppy teenager. I might imagine them dressed in his shorts. He's got dirty knees, muddy knees. He's got a little catapult in his pocket. He's got his hat on the wrong way. Consider how you'd respond to a stroppy teenager. I also remember going on holiday with my daughter and her cousin, and I told them it was time for bed, and her cousin, who was about 9, said, "I hate you." And of course, she was 9-year-old. I didn't take any notice of that. I just laughed, and I knew that by the next morning she would have forgotten about that. So practice that. Practice seeing them at that age and how you'd respond to them. Again, you can imagine them with a silly voice. Strategy 4 is to give yourself permission to address the situation after the event, should you wish to. Okay? So you don't always have to do this. Your emotional brain wants you to take action. It might be enough to say, oh, actually that person was behaving badly. They were behaving like a stroppy teenager or a terrible 2-year-old. Okay? But other times you might feel, no, it is appropriate for me to communicate. And you don't have to communicate face to face. You don't have to communicate by phone. If it's easier for you just to send an email, doing that means that they're going to be less defensive because you're not there to react to. So it might give them some space for reflection. And, you might say, actually, I didn't feel comfortable about the way you were talking to me. If you want to have a relationship with me, you need to think about how you interact with me, if that's appropriate. Okay? So, in conclusion, overcoming the freeze response can take time, take practice, and take self-compassion. and we can make breakthroughs, okay? So because of neuroplasticity, the brain can be rewired over time with consistent practice, new behaviors and experiences. I talk about the 3 Ps: practice, practice, and I guess you can guess what the third one is, okay? When we practice responding calmly and assertively in safe, low-stake situations, we're creating new neural pathways that support a more flexible, relaxed, confident response. Each time we practice a small step, like setting a boundary, we gradually weaken the old freeze response and it becomes easier. These practices signal to the brain that self-expression and standing up for yourself are safe. So remember, you're not alone in this. I had some experiences a while back that taught me I've still got something to learn about expressing myself and not going into that freeze response, okay? So these techniques that I've shared can help you build that confidence. As I said at the start, remember, you are an awesome, brilliant human being, and your job is to be your true, brilliant self. So start valuing your opinions. Challenge that notion of this person's point of view is more important than mine. Challenge the notion that it's not okay to share your feelings. Challenge the notion that you have to care so much about what other people think. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, do leave a comment, leave a like, do share it. Your comments help other people find this video. If you like more tips, you're welcome to join my Facebook group where I share tips and strategies on a regular basis, usually daily. And if you'd like more, follow me on TikTok or Instagram. I am more active on TikTok. I am going to be doing a live resilience group coaching call next week. If you'd like to join me, comment the word group below. If you want to go faster and want help now, then I'm happy to have a no-cost chat with you to explore how we could work together. Anyway, keep going. You've got this. Dare to dream big dreams. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye for now.